Hello, and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Rethinking Data Integration for a Cloud World. This is Jeannie Parker, and I will be your host for this session. Today's presenter is Matthew Monahan, the Principal Product Manager for DataDirect Cloud. Since joining Progress, Matthew has applied his tremendous breadth of experience in building software applications and running software as a service operations to making DataDirect Cloud the leader in cloud-based connectivity services. Matthew will be joined in the Q&A portion of today's presentation by Jeff Racer, Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Progress DataDirect. And with that, I will turn the session over to Matthew.
Thank you, Jeannie. Well, I'm really excited to be here today to share some information with you and discuss some of the challenges that come up with data integration in this new cloud world that we're experiencing. So what I'd like to do is start by running through the agenda real quick. Today we're going to discuss the challenges that software vendors face with the proliferation of applications and data moving into the cloud. I'll provide an overview and demonstration of DataDirect Cloud, which can address many of these challenges. Then we'll wrap up with two specific use cases where we've helped software vendors to reduce time to market, lower development costs, and increase revenue opportunities. As more and more companies move their core business applications to the cloud, access to the data behind those applications, whether for reporting or integration, has become a major challenge. These are some of the challenges that we've identified when working with software vendors over the past several years. And of course, Progress DataDirect, we've been providing solutions for data access for more than 30 years. And over the last several years, we've extended our capabilities to include data in the cloud. So in particular, when you have applications moving to the cloud, those business applications still need access to on-premise data. Additionally, when you have data in the cloud, such as in software as a service applications like Salesforce or Google Analytics, Eloqua, Marketo, and others, that data needs to be accessible on-premise for your reporting application. Third, keeping up with new data sources is immensely time-consuming. It's really not a core competency for most ISVs. And so being able to work with a partner like Progress DataDirect to constantly keep up with those changes across a broad spectrum of different types of data is going to be a huge competitive advantage for you. And finally, VPNs, firewalls, other security considerations really play a key role in the challenges that keep data separated. And really what we want to be able to do is bring all of the data together, whether it's in the cloud or on-premise, and whether you're using that data in cloud applications or on-premise applications. So let me tell you a little bit about DataDirect Cloud. Progress DataDirect is known for standards-based connectivity. And there are three things that I'd like to call out about DataDirect Cloud in particular, which I think are very valuable as you build your applications, whether that's an application in the cloud or one on-premise that needs access to cloud data. The first is the on-premise connector. Now, our on-premise connector technology is what allows data to securely traverse the firewall. So rather than having to drill holes through the firewall, open new ports, or have to find VPN connectivity, other ways to manage around that firewall, our on-premise connector makes it very, very easy. And we're going to talk through a couple of use cases where this can play a specific role. But think of the on-premise connector as a lightweight software appliance which sits behind your firewall in the on-premise environment next to or near the databases where it can access the databases, maybe even on the database server. And it provides that connectivity by reaching out through the firewall using the standard ports that are already available on the firewall, generally for web browsing, so port 443, HTTPS. And it communicates in a way that is both secure through encryption, as well as in a one-to-one relationship between the on-premise connector and the DataDirect Cloud account. And what that means is when you install your on-premise connector, you register it with your DataDirect Cloud account, and only your account can ever use that on-premise connector. Vice versa, that on-premise connector can only ever communicate out to your account in DataDirect Cloud. Second thing we offer is a single Odbc or Jdbc driver. And what that means is that for all of the data sources that we support, you only need to do one integration. And the time savings on this is significant. We found that vendors, one of the challenges is how many data sources they want to support in their application is very often limited by their ability to manage that development cycle. And by leveraging DataDirect Cloud and our either Odbc or Jdbc driver, you can provide a single point of integration. And then finally, cloud data, which is generally accessible through a provider's set of APIs, those APIs can be very different from vendor to vendor. Not many of them have adopted things like OData, which is an API standard. And so what that means is that in order for you to connect to each of those individual cloud data sources, you would either have to manage multiple integrations or use a solution like DataDirect Cloud, which not only manages those API connections for you, but provides that data through industry standard SQL. So all of your existing applications or your customers' applications use standard SQL to gain access into that cloud data. I'm actually going to take you through a quick demo to show what that looks like within DataDirect Cloud. So this is the DataDirect Cloud dashboard. We've designed everything to be very easy to use and navigate, very simple and streamlined, both for your customers as well as for your developers. So I'm going to go into data sources. The first thing I'll do is show the data sources that we support. So our current list of data sources is fairly significant. So we have a variety of common relational on-premise databases such as Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, MySQL, and Postgres. We also support a number of cloud sources such as Salesforce, Marketo, Eloqua, Oracle Service Cloud, and others. We've also got a number of big data systems, including Hadoop, as well as support for Hive. We have some new things that are currently in beta, and through our free 30-day trial, you can try out not only our current data stores, but also our beta solutions. So we have some that are extended off of the Salesforce platform, as well as Sugar CRM, Sybase, and some others. We also do have on our roadmap support for Cassandra, MongoDB, and others. Again, this is all available with a free 30-day trial, so I'd encourage you to head over to datadirectcloud.com to check it out. But let's take a look at what an actual data source configuration entails. So I'm going to show one here that I've already got set up, just in the interest of time. The only thing I've configured is on this first tab for general information. And what I've done is I've chosen a data source name. And that's the name that I'll use to reference this data source throughout any integrations, whether it's with the Odbc or Jdbc drivers or through OData. That will all be handled through this data source name. Given a description just to make it a little bit easier to find in the list. And I've supplied 3 basic pieces of information. And anyone who's ever connected to a Salesforce account knows what these are. So it's the user ID, of course, and a password, as well as a security token that's generated by Salesforce and provided to provide essentially one extra layer of security. Now that I've got that information stored in my DataDirect Cloud account, what I'm going to do is actually test it. So what I'll say right now is at this point, the system has connected through the Salesforce APIs to provide connectivity between DataDirect Cloud and Salesforce. I'm going to go over into the SQL testing view. And what I'm going to demonstrate now is how we've taken that custom API, which Salesforce has written. And the same thing applies for all the other APIs that we support. And I'm going to show how we have taken that information and converted it into a standard table style view with rows and columns. So if I take a look, for example, in my account table, this is the account information that is provided by the Salesforce API. Again, as Salesforce makes changes to its APIs, we will update our systems to support those additional changes within DataDirect Cloud, so you don't need to worry about those changes. And right within this SQL editor, I can write a standard SQL query, select star from sforce.account. I can execute that query and bring back a table of information. So this is information in my Salesforce developer account. And what I hope this demonstrates is the power of being able to use an industry standard such as SQL against any type of API, whether that's Salesforce or others. So this is sort of the basics of what we do within DataDirect Cloud. And just to show one more data source, I'm going to go back over to my data sources. I'm going to show SQL Server. And what you're going to see is very similar information. Again, I've only configured things on the General tab here. I haven't needed to go into any of the additional security or advanced configuration options. Those are certainly available if we want to tweak the performance based on specific use cases or sets of data that are available. But on the General tab, I've identified a data source name and a description. I've put in my database username and password. I've specified the server name. Now, one of the things that I'll call out here is that I am connecting from DataDirect Cloud. So it's the cloud environment managed by Progress DataDirect. And I'm connecting into and through a firewall to a SQL Server instance behind a firewall. And the way that I've done this is I've connected through my unique on-premise connector. When I installed the on-premise connector, it gave me a unique connector ID. It is unique to me. Nobody else has this connector ID. And I've brought this information into my DataDirect Cloud account. You can have multiple on-premise connectors. You can have one per database if you'd like. You could have one per network segment. Whatever functionality is required for your particular use case. If you are running multiple private clouds for your customers, you could have one of these per private cloud behind your firewall and give them access that way. So I've put this connector ID in, I've identified the database, and the server name, which is specific to how the on-premise connector sees that server. So that server is not exposed on the internet. That DNS name is not available anywhere. It's only available on the network where I have my on-premise connector and my database. Okay? So the demonstration so far is really just designed to show the capabilities of connecting to both an on-premise data source, leveraging the on-premise connector, as well as a cloud data source available over the internet. And again, all of these are, we use a technique we call SQL leveling. So being able to use a single standard language, which is SQL, to query data across any of these data sources. Well, that's all great. So now how do I actually get this into an application? Well, as I mentioned, we have Odbc and Jdbc drivers, and those are listed here. So we have Odbc for Windows, Unix, and Linux. We also have Jdbc for Windows, Unix, and Linux. These are the drivers that you can download that provide the industry standard Odbc or Jdbc data sources. So you can use those, whether it's something like a Tableau or a MicroStrategy that you're using for reporting, or an application that you're developing. These are the technologies that are available. And of course, we also have our on-premise connector, which I've mentioned, and that currently is available for Windows and can be downloaded for x86 or the x64 platform. So I'm going to switch back over to the presentation. And what I'm going to do now is talk more specifically about a couple of use cases that we've recently worked on with other software vendors. So the first one is a cloud-based ERP application provider that wanted to enable seamless access to its customers' data, which they house, the provider houses, in a SQL Server database that they manage in the cloud behind their firewall. So what does that all mean? Well, in a traditional ERP environment, what you would have is the ERP would be installed on the corporate network. The reporting system, the application would be used on the network. If a specific employee needed remote access, they'd be set up with a VPN. But all of that was contained locally. So the local IT department would have access to the database. They could create users. They could manage permissions. all of it was very easy to connect together because it was all in one location. But now, as ERP or other business applications migrate out to the cloud, being able to access that information on-premise or wherever the user is who wants to do reporting against that creates a bunch of challenges. And so rather than you as the cloud ISV or cloud application provider having to change your firewall rules and create individual users for users of your customers within the database, that's very cumbersome. So rather than doing that, here's the solution. What you do is you leverage the on-premise connector and put that in your cloud environment. And again, that helps the data to traverse the firewall. So by putting that on-premise connector, this vendor was able to offer its customers a download of an Odbc driver and give them a username which is already pre-configured for them in DataDirect Cloud. So one of the great things about the way we've designed DataDirect Cloud is that all of the functionality is API-based. So everything that I showed you in the API, all the everything I showed you in the UI, in the user interface on the web, is available through our APIs. And so this particular ERP provider is using our APIs to not only set up the on-premise connector, but also to manage the individual user accounts and permissions. So they use our APIs, they create the user account in DataDirect Cloud, they configure the data source for the user, and so all they need to do is provide that user with a username and password and a download of our Odbc driver. And then that customer can use whatever reporting tools or systems they're comfortable with. They could synchronize it with MySQL on-premise, or they could just plug that into a Tableau or a MicroStrategy to do reporting. So that you can see the power for the customer. But most importantly, the benefits for you as the ISV, you increase customer satisfaction, plus you can drive additional revenue. So this is an upsell opportunity for this particular ERP provider. And it has very minimal development costs. A little bit of API integration to manage those user accounts, and they're off to the races. So this has been one of the ones that I've been most excited about. But it's not the only one, so I want to take you through just one more before we get to Q&A. So in this case, it's sort of the reverse data flow. And in this case, we have a worldwide provider of BI and analytics software that's trying to maintain its competitive edge. And so it had a traditional on-premise installed reporting application, and they've moved that application into the cloud. And so now the challenge is that the user, the end customer, using the cloud reporting capability needs to reach back on-premise to get access to their data, as well as reach out to the cloud to be able to pull down some of their cloud data. And so what we've done in this case is that the analytics vendor has integrated our Jdbc driver into their cloud offering. And with only one integration, just that one driver integration, they're able to provide their customers immediately with all of the cloud data sources that we support. And so we've seen this very commonly in an all-cloud scenario where the customer wants a cloud application for reporting because their data sources are all in the cloud, and it just makes sense. They don't have a lot of on-premise data that they need to deal with. But not only that, the same analytics vendor, using that same Jdbc integration that they've already built through DataDirect Cloud, can now offer its customers the on-premise connector as a download. And by downloading that on-premise connector and installing it within their network, their end customer can provide access to the SaaS or cloud reporting application to that on-premise data. So it's just a full 360-degree view of the data that's available. It really ties everything together and makes it very easy. Again, the things to emphasize here are that from a customer perspective, they can go into the cloud application, they can get started right away. If they need on-premise data, it's one download, one set of configuration for them to run that on-premise connector. And most importantly, from the ISV perspective, it's a single driver, which results in a very short time to market, increased differentiation, because as DataDirect Cloud offers more data sources, the ISV will be able to offer more data sources. And it's just, again, these are the two use cases that we've recently worked on and have really seen tremendous value for the ISV and are getting really excited about it. So I hope that over the past 20 minutes or so, you've gotten a good view into what DataDirect Cloud can offer, particularly for an ISV trying to extend its reach into cloud data sources, or for a cloud application reaching back into on-premise data. And what I'd like to do now is open it up for Q&A. And I have with me Jeff Reeser. Jeff and I work very closely together on all the things we do with DataDirect Cloud. You can see up at the top here we have a couple of links for you where you can start your free trial at datadirectcloud.com. We have a number of great blog posts at blogs.datadirect.com. You'll see some out there from Sumit Sarkar, another one of our colleagues who's done a tremendous amount of work over the past 10 to 15 years in data overall. He really knows this industry, and he's gotten really excited about DataDirect Cloud and likes to throw some blog posts out there about it. So if there's a particular use case that we didn't cover today, take a look at our blogs. And of course, both myself and Jeff are always available by email. Feel free to reach out to us. If you have any questions, we're more than happy to point you in the right direction. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to ask some questions through the question pane. If not, I'll talk for a brief moment more just to remind you that in the GoToWebinar panel, you can type your questions in there. And Jeff's going to read those off to me so that I can answer your questions. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Nice job. And it looks like we have 4 questions in the queue right now, so I'll go through them right now. The first question is, I want to be able to control and manage who gets access to which data sources. How do I set that up? Are there interfaces that I would have to write to?
That's a great question. So absolutely, there's a high level of control over which users have access to which data sources. Even with the on-premise connector, individual DataDirect Cloud accounts still needs the database username and password to configure a data source. So this isn't the type of thing where the on-premise connector just provides wide open access to the data. So the way we have it set up today, there's a set of APIs that manage not only the user information, but also the data sources for each user. So as an ISV or even within a corporate environment, the corporate admin has the ability to leverage those APIs to automatically create users, create and manage their data sources, and make sure that they're the only ones who have access to that information.
Okay, that sounds good. The next question I have here is, does DataDirect Cloud support Jdbc failover servers, such as having an Oracle database in a corporate data center using Amazon Cloud for failover?
Okay, that's a complex question. Let me address 2 things that we do today to see if I understand correctly. So in terms of an Oracle cluster, we do support the ability for the on-premise connector to connect to more than one Oracle server. And so that can be used in both a high availability and a failover scenario. We do have a large customer that uses that capability today. In terms of specifically failing over to Amazon, I believe we can do that. So we do have the ability for the on-premise connector to be set up in a failover scenario. Where we have seen it deployed today is within a corporate network. So in other words, there's more than one on-premise connector installed behind the firewall. And if one should become unresponsive for any reason, connectivity can fail over to a separate on-premise connector. I don't see any reason why that second on-premise connector couldn't be in a separate environment, such as Amazon's public cloud or a private cloud environment, where that on-premise connector would actually connect to a different Oracle instance. So I see at least a couple of different ways to address that with our capabilities today.
Yeah, that makes sense, Matthew. Thanks. The next question I have is, so I have a set of cloud-based BI analytics apps, and I want to access client data not only behind the firewall but also in the cloud. Can I use the same unified Jdbc driver for something like that?
Absolutely. So the single driver is all you need to install and configure to connect from your application to DataDirect Cloud. From DataDirect Cloud, you have the ability to configure any number of data sources which would connect via either the on-premise connector for an on-premise data source or directly through. So for example, if you were running a database server in Amazon's cloud and you did have the database ports open to the internet, then yes, you can connect to that. So where we've seen that in particular is for public data sets. There's some public data sets that are available, some provided by the government or by other research organizations, which are publicly available directly on the database port.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Matthew and Jeff, and thank you to everyone for joining today's presentation. Have a great rest of the day.